Welcome, welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. We are going to be talking about three things that your doctor is probably not telling you. And these three things could possibly be either keeping you ill or making you sick. So that is why it is very critical that we address these things. So now, before we begin, what I would like to do is ask you a question. Have you ever been in a situation where you are battling to try and improve your health? You're doing everything that you can think of, and you just can't seem to figure out what is not working and why it's not working. Have you ever been in that situation? And then you go to the doctor, right? And you leave feeling as if you're not getting enough information to really make a difference, and you feel as if something has not been truly addressed. Well, I know what that feels like. I have been there. I have felt that. Because you see, about 20 years ago, when I had my fourth child, I had gone through so many things. We were going through a difficult time in our relationship with my former husband. We were getting ready to leave the military, which means that we were getting ready to go into a zone of not having that steady paycheck. I know a lot of people can relate to that right about now. And I had just had my fourth child, and I had my kids really close together, one after the other, boom, 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 right? And after I had my fourth child, I just was drained, absolutely drained. And even more so than that, I was feeling as if I just could not figure out what to do because I was tired and I was irritable and angry and upset. I couldn't figure out what was going on in terms of why I just couldn't bond with my daughter and why I was just angry at everybody and everything. And I was just tired all the time. And I was feeling low and upset and everything. And so I went to the doctor hoping to get some kind of understanding about what was going on. And after about 10, 15 minutes, she diagnosed me as bipolar and gave me a prescription. And that is when I knew that I had to figure this out because I knew that I wasn't getting the answer that I wanted to. And the answer was, how can I become whole once again? How can I become revitalized? Because there were three things that this doctor was not telling me. And I knew in my spirit that there was something that was not being told to me. So the first thing that this doctor was not telling me was the fact that all medications, every single drug that you can think of that is out there, has side effects. And even more so than that, every single drug that you have out there creates nutritional deficiencies that lead to other forms of dis-ease. So, the first thing I want to share with you tonight is a phenomenal resource that I love, love, love sharing with my students, and it is called Mitavin. I'm going to go to that website right now with you. I'm going to share my screen so that you can see this for yourself, right? So here we go. Because we are in the business of making sure that we are health detectives. And I am congratulating you for being bold and courageous enough to think, to have the audacity to think that there is a little bit more to the story than what you are being told. I completely, fervently applaud you because most people would never come to this webinar. Most people think, I go to the doctor, he tells me this, she tells me that, and it's done deal. Whatever they say, that's it. Most people do not question their doctors. Most people do not have this sense of, there's something more. I want to know more. I want to take charge. I want to be in charge. I want to take my health to the next step. And that's what we're here to do today. We're here to talk about how we can win the battle and become well in 2021. So, this resource that I'm sharing with you is called mytavin.com, mytavin.com. And what I encourage all of you to do is, as soon as you are done with this webinar, I want you to go to this website and type in each and every one of the medications that either you are taking or that your doctor has told you to take, right? So I'm going to type in a very popular medication, metformin, that I know that a lot of people are either taking or their doctor has told them to take. So I've typed it in, metformin extended release, or you can just have metformin, it doesn't make a difference. And I'm going to click on calculate. So now we find out that metformin causes deficiencies in B12. Now, for some of you who have been part of our series called The Doctors Are In, and you know that sometimes we have Dr. Priya with us, in one of our previous episodes, she talked about the fact that B12 is a significant vitamin that is found to be deficient in people who are taking metformin. And so much so that she does B12 injections with her patients that are taking metformin. So what is interesting about B12 is that when you are deficient in B12, it can cause anemia, fatigue, weakness, weight loss, constipation, neuropathy, depression, confusion, and more, okay? And some of you may say, but wait a minute, I'm taking metformin for my blood glucose issues, right? High blood pressure, or should I say high blood sugar. And a lot of the symptoms that you experience with high blood sugar, guess what? You start to experience the same symptoms when you become B12 deficient. And a lot of times people will be on these medications and then they start developing these different symptoms. And guess what? The doctor says, well, now we're going to have to take medication for those symptoms. You know, a common example of this is my daughter. When previously she was diagnosed with psychosis, and they would prescribe her all of these antipsychotic medications. And guess what? One of the side effects of these antipsychotic medications were that it elevates their blood sugar, it increases weight, and for a lot of these people, it gives them tremors, shakes, what they call tardive kinesis, right? So then they have to take medication and cause constipation. So then she would have to take medication for all of those things, for the constipation, for the weight gain, for the elevation in blood sugar, and for the shakes. So it starts out as one medication, and then they add on another and another. Another example of this is people who are on hypertensive medication. Well, guess what? A lot of these hypertensive medications, they cause a deficiency in potassium. So then they say, you know what? Now you got to take a diuretic, right? And you got to take potassium pills. So all kinds of things start to compound and compound and compound. But they never tell you these things when you first sign up, or should I say, when you first taking these prescriptions, that once you get on this little ride, it's going to lead you through a whole lot of valleys that are going to lead to more issues and complications. Now, the other site that I encourage you to go to is WebMD. Yes, I go to WebMD because I am not a medical doctor. So I have to do research on all of these medications that my clients are taking. So just like I'm showing you how to do research, I do this same kind of research for all of my clients, right? So now when you look at metformin, and as I said, metformin is a common medication that's used for diabetics. And you look and you find out this is how metformin works. Metformin tells your liver to make less glucose. Metformin lowers your insulin resistance, right? And metformin helps your intestines to absorb less glucose than it usually would. So now the question becomes, if this is what metformin is doing, what can be kind of complications that this leads to? And the reason why I'm encouraging you to think about this is because of the second thing that your doctor probably isn't telling you. Your doctor probably isn't telling you that the disease, whether it be high blood sugar, high blood pressure, inflammation, whatever it is, your dis-ease, where the body is not at ease, where the body is trying to get back to what it needs to do. That is just the tip of the iceberg. The dis-ease is not the issue. It is not the problem.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that your blood glucose is high is not the problem. The fact that your blood pressure is high is not the problem. So you may say, yo, Michelle, what's up with that? How you going to tell me that that is not the problem? I'm going to tell you why I'm going to tell you that's not the problem. What if I told you, I want you to imagine you're sleeping in bed one night, and then all of a sudden you hear beep, 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 beep. And you know that's the sound of your smoke detector, right? So you jump up out of the bed, you run to your phone, you dial 911. Hey, Mr. Fireman, you better make it over to my house because my smoke detector is going off. Something is wrong. So all of a sudden you're fire engine come in. You see these nice buff firemen come busting through the door. They like, where's the smoke detector? And they go back, 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 and they smash that smoke detector. And they say, okay, ma'am, our job is done. And they leave. Would you be satisfied with that? I think not. The smoke detector wasn't the problem. And so maybe you got a really good fireman. And he's like, ma'am, there's all of this smoke in your house. And so they get this big hose and they suck out all the smoke. And then they say, okay, ma'am, job is done. I'm going home. And you look at him like, oh, heck to the no, you ain't going home. Because you know that the smoke detector wasn't the problem. The smoke wasn't the problem. You know that you have to ask the question, why? Number one, why did the smoke detector go off? Well, you know the smoke detector went off because there was smoke. So then you have to ask the question, why again? Why was there smoke? Well, because there's fire somewhere. And even if you get to the fire, you still have to ask the question, why was there fire? Well, because there was a fire starter. Something started the fire. So it's the same thing when you're talking about your diabetes or you're talking about hypertension or you're talking about your depression, your anxiety, any kind of chronic illness. The illness itself is your smoke detector going off. The illness itself is a message that there is something wrong and you need to find an investigator. The illness is not the problem. What caused the illness is the problem. So now let's go back to this whole thing with metformin, right? Okay. Because we learn here that metformin tells your liver to make less glucose. So then the question is, why would I have to tell my liver to make less glucose? Either the liver isn't functioning properly, or there's too many carbohydrates in the system. So the problem isn't about forcing the liver to make less glucose. Because guess what? When you start to tell the liver to stop making sufficient glucose, then you are giving it a new signal. You're giving it a new program from what God designed it to do. God designed your liver to make glucose for a reason, to keep you alive and working so that your glucose would get to your cells and things of that nature. When you tell your body to do something that is contrary to the original program, you're opening up yourself to problems. When you go down to the next one, or should I say, I'm going to skip to the last one, it helps your intestines to absorb less glucose from your food. Well, if you're telling your intestine to absorb less glucose from your food, guess what? It's also going to absorb less minerals and vitamins from your food. And that is one of the reasons why you have lowered B12, which can lead to all kinds of other complications. So whenever you get a medication, what your doctor is not sitting down and talking to you about is, how is it working in your system? What is it doing? What is it forcing the body to do? Because like I said, the illness, the symptoms, your high blood sugar, your high blood pressure is not the problem. The problem is what is causing your blood sugar to go high? What is causing your blood pressure to go high? What is causing you to be depressed? What is causing you to be anxious? Because if you do not deal with the underlying issues, it's going to be like playing the game of whack-a-mole. You knock the mole down in one hole, and guess what? Another problem pops its big old ugly head up in another hole. Whenever you force the body to do what it doesn't want to do, what God did not design it to do, you're going to end up with some other problems. So you have other types of blood glucose regulating medications. Like there's a famous one called Invokana. My daughter used to take Invokana. And when she was taking Invokana, initially it was like, woohoo, yay, because she started to lose weight. But guess what? She kept on losing weight and losing weight and losing weight. And then I found out that it also causes stress to the kidneys, because when the way it causes you to lower your blood glucose is because it forces you to pee out the extra blood sugar, right? So now initially you say, hey, that's a good thing, right, Michelle? No, it's not a good thing, because now you're putting extra work onto the kidneys. And now you're also putting extra sugar into the urinary tract. And what happens with a lot of people who have that particular medication is, number one, they lose weight, which can get out of hand. Number two, they cause extra stress to the kidneys. In fact, 40% of diabetics will end up with a chronic kidney disease. Okay. And then it leads to a lot of sugar in the urinary tract, which can lead to yeast infections. So that is why number two is important to remember. You need to get your doctor to investigate with you, why do you have these symptoms? Don't get super happy because they gave you a label. Oh, you're diabetic. Oh, you're hypertensive. Oh, you're fill in the blank. Because that's all they do. They'll give you a label and give you a medication to force the body to do what it doesn't want to do. And a lot of times what the body wants to do is the body's way or God's way of trying to save you from yourself. When you experience inflammation, that is your body trying to save you from yourself. There's something toxic in your system that the body has to add water to the area to dilute it, because if it were too concentrated, it would overwhelm your system. So now the question isn't about, oh, what do we do to shut down the inflammatory process? Yes, you may have to do that in an extreme crisis. But then once you are out of the woods, once you are out of that crisis area, you need to do the investigation. You need to make sure your doctor is doing the investigation and asking what caused the inflammation, and keep going back and back and back, asking why, Why? Why? Until you get to, and here's the third thing that your doctor isn't telling you. The third thing, and the most important thing, in fact, this is the part that is juicy and empowering, and you should say, yes, Michelle. The most important thing that your doctor can tell you is this: Susie Q, Mary J, I can't heal you. You are the only person who can heal you. Now, you may say, yo, Michelle, this is not the news that I wanted to hear, right? And that is why I have extreme reverence for a lot of our medical doctors, because they're in a very tough place. You know, when most of us go to the doctor, we go to the doctor saying, hey, fix me. Give me that pill, red, yellow, blue, purple, whatever it is, that's going to solve my issue, that's going to cure me. And that's what they do. They'll give you a pill that will cure, it will relieve the symptoms. But the truth of the matter is that there's a difference between cures and healing. Healing is about the journey. And no man, no woman can heal you. And if they say they can, you best run as fast as you can, because they are out to do some interesting stuff and take your money. Okay? No one can heal you, because only one power can heal you, and that is God Almighty. And even God requires your cooperation. See, healing is an active process. You can't passively lay back and be healed. That ain't gonna happen. Healing is when you keep on asking the question, why? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? And every time you get an answer, you keep going back further and asking the question, why? And do not stop asking the question, why, until you get an answer that, that includes what you can do. So when we look back at every single chronic illness that there is a component of self-empowerment. There is something that God is seeking you to do, something in your life that God is seeking you to change. It may be that God wants you to stop eating the ding dongs and ho-hos. It may be that God wants you to really look at your prayer life. It may be that God wants you to really examine why you're eating the ding dongs and ho-hos. Maybe the reason why you're eating the ding dongs and ho-hos is because there's an emptiness in your life. Or maybe it's being triggered. A lot of us eat out of emotional states, you know, when we go into certain emotional states. Whatever it is, this is a healing journey. And see, that's the thing that a lot of doctors are not sharing with you, that healing is body, mind, heart, and soul. I don't care what the chronic illness is. There's a physical component, a mental component, an emotional component, and a spiritual component. So even when we talk about mental illness, a lot of times I have to share with people, it is not all in your head. There is a biological component to every single mental illness. Every mental illness has a biological component, has some area of the biochemistry that needs to be brought back into balance. It has some area of the brain that needs to be supported through different types of support, whether it be food or exercise or nutrients, whatever it is. So these are the three things that your doctor probably isn't talking to you about that have to be addressed. Now, the beauty, as I said, is recognizing that you have the power to take charge of your life and to be captain of your ship and to be an active participant in this healing journey. And that is the only time that you can heal. The medication can artificially lower your blood glucose, but what's causing that is not going to go away until you make certain changes. Now, this is where a lot of times doctors are at a loss, because not many doctors know how to go into this realm of helping you to heal. They know how to cure. They know how to prescribe a pill that is artificially going to bring those numbers, whatever those numbers are, into a certain range. They know how to manage a disease state. And we need that at certain points in time. When we are in certain crisis modes, we may need a little assistance, right? But once you get out of that crisis zone, I encourage you to say, you know what? I'm ready to do some healing. So, for instance, you get run over by a Mack truck. I tell people, if I get run over by a Mack truck, take me to the nearest hospital. Do not take me to the naturopath. Don't take me to Michelle. No. Take me to the hospital so that they can patch me up. But then guess what? After I come out of surgery, what do the doctors tell you? Well, we're going to have to wait and see. Because at that point, it takes the creator and it takes my participation. I have to have the will to live, right? And I have to have certain reserves in me. I have to have a certain nutritional reserve, a certain energetic reserve to be able to heal. So that is where the healing journey comes in. That is where you can reverse. Yes, you can reverse diabetes. You can reverse chronic kidney disease. You can reverse hypertension. You can heal. You can actually create new cells in your body. You can even reverse mental illness. You can reverse damage. You can create new neural pathways in your brain. But it isn't done with a drug. Drugs do not nurture the healing process. They help to take some of the pressure off, right? But then you have to jump in and say, yes, I'm going to do this. So as I said, this is where the journey begins. And that is why I love what I do, because I love helping people to connect these dots, to identify what are the areas that are sabotaging you, that are keeping you from being able to heal. It may be the foods that you're eating. It may be the things that you're drinking. It may be the TV that you're watching. It may be the sleep that you're not getting. It may be the exercise that you're not doing. And then there's always the question, why? Why? Always ask that question, why? Why am I not eating the foods that I need to eat? Is it because I don't know what the foods are that I need to eat? Or is it because I'm addicted to other foods? Or maybe I don't know how to prepare the foods that I need, that I know are better for me. Or maybe I get caught up, and I don't have time to do the preparation because I haven't learned how to manage my time. Why is it that my blood pressure is high? It may be the foods that I'm eating. It may be the foods that I'm not eating. It may be the fact that I'm not able to deal properly with my stress. It may be because I'm constantly in a state of anger and angst and anxiety, and that's right, raising my blood pressure. It may be because I'm still traumatized by a previous relationship or previous experience. Always ask the question why. And then when you go and you find someone that you can work with, that is when the journey begins, because this is where you enter into this beautiful relationship with your creator, where you are going to co-create you as a whole person. Healing comes from the idea of becoming whole. A drug cannot make you whole. A surgery cannot make you whole. And these are the things that countless people have come to me with, that they've gone to their doctor and they didn't realize that the drugs were going to create other problems. The doctor didn't talk to them about that. They didn't realize that these drugs were going to create certain nutritional deficiencies, and they were going to force the body to do something that it didn't want to do. They didn't realize that. They didn't realize that your disease state is not the problem. The problem is what's triggering it. And a lot of times when you force the body to forget the disease, like what we do with painkillers. So we take an Advil or Tylenol. Guess what? What's causing the pain has not gone away. Just your awareness of the pain has gone away. So you no longer perceive that there's pain, but the issue that caused the pain is still there. You're just not aware of it. And that's why this is so dangerous. Because if you are not aware of the fact that the fire is still going, even though you smashed the smoke detector and you sucked out all the smoke, if you're not aware that the fire is still smoldering, you're going to wake up one day and no longer have a house. And I don't want that for you. So, one of the things that I'm going to do is that I'm going to give you the opportunity to be able to enter into a conversation with me after this webinar, a private conversation where we can explore whatever the battle is that you are fighting with. Maybe extra weight or swelling in your legs or depression or anxiety or high blood pressure or high glucose, whatever that issue is. I would love to have a conversation with you to explore what it is that may be triggering this for you, what it is that may be causing this for you, and what some of your options are. And I've done this particular conversation with many, many people. And some of them walk away and they're like, wow, I've got it. And now they know what kind of conversations to enter into with their doctors or with other health medical providers that they have. And then some people decide, you know what? I'm not going to get this from my doctor, Michelle. Hey, can you work with me? Whichever way it goes, I want to help you to make the next step so that in 2021, you are prepared to do battle and win the battle and finally accomplish and achieve your health goals. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to put into the chat a link that you can utilize to schedule an appointment with me. And I'm also going to make sure that I will send this recording to everyone so that you can have a linked copy of